Welcome to the Refine and Shine, the podcast dedicated to mastering the art of continuous improvement and optimizing every aspect of your life. I'm Angelina Rivera, your host, and together we'll uncover the secrets to refining our lives, our habits, and our processes to unlock our inner brilliance. Join us on Refine and Shine, where we'll delve deep into achieving more in life without the burnout and without all the stress. This podcast is your platform for a more fulfilling life through continuous improvement and personal growth. In each episode, I and a diverse array of guests discuss practical strategies for up-leveling every aspect of your life. From developing good habits and organizing your space to refining your mindset and personal goals, we're going to explore it all. Our guests share personal stories about the systems they've developed or systems they've used and the tweaks they've made in their lives when refinement was needed, allowing them to truly shine. Listen to Refine and Shine to learn how you can implement continuous improvement techniques in your daily routine, develop and maintain healthy habits that lead to success and satisfaction, organize your life to reduce the stress and increase your productivity, foster a growth mindset that propels you to new heights. My mission is to inspire you to take bold action, make positive changes, and become the best version of yourself. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, Refine and Shine is your guiding light. With over 25 years of experience in continuous improvement, I help businesses streamline their processes, establish efficient work areas, and implement standard work protocols. I have trained over 600 individuals and teams in process improvement, optimizing workflows, and enhancing overall operational efficiency. Tune in every week as we embark on an enlightening journey, exploring paths to refinement and illuminating the way to shine in every area of our lives. Subscribe now and join us on this journey to polish your life and let your best self shine through. Thank you for joining us on Refine and Shine. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Refine and Shine podcast. I'm super excited about my guest today, and I'm not going to read a big old bio or anything like that because I just want them to tell us who they are, what they're doing, and all the things. But my guest today is Dr. Carl Rothschild, who is a pioneering advocate for red light therapy. So, Dr. Carl, thank you so much for joining me today, and just take it away and tell me how you got into this.
Oh, it was 1972, and I was a junior at Stony Brook University, which is a very good school out in New York. And I was a biology nut. I mean, I loved animals. I loved organisms. I just loved it. But I wasn't figuring out yet how that would translate into a career until somebody said, why don't you become a chiropractor? Now, I want you to know that in 1972, that chiropractic was considered one level below voodoo, and very controversial, and it didn't go over well with my family. But I started doing research. I called as many chiropractors as I could around the country, I should say, and everyone I called loved what they were doing, and so my career bound was to help. My goals were to help as many people as possible and not focus on money. I don't mind making money, but I didn't want that to be my main focus. And chiropractic just seemed to fit the bill perfectly. It really would allow me to help a lot of people. And if I make money, great. But if I don't, I'm not going to sweat it. So in 1978, I became a chiropractor. I moved out from New York to California. And I loved it. I mean, I was 20 years in, and I had built several practices. It's a lot of fun, helping people in a way that was surprising to them because their expectations of a chiropractor weren't very high. So I didn't have a tough time satisfying their needs, and I just lived the natural healing part. You have to remember that in chiropractic, we don't believe in putting anything in the body that doesn't belong there or yanking anything out that does belong there. And so me personally, I don't take anything. I'm 73 years old. No pills, no drugs, I would if that were my last resort, but my goal has always been to try to keep myself as healthy as possible so I wouldn't need all that crap. Drugs are great if they had no side effects, but that's not the story. They have sometimes horrific side effects. So at any rate, there I am, 1978, started my practice. And as I said, I did well, but about 20 years in, which is about 28 years ago, I was introduced to light therapy. So I knew an orthopedic surgeon out of USC, who was also a professor there, and he was the first one really to push red light therapy in the country. He was the first one to get the FDA clearance, and I knew him before all that. So he hands me what looks like a flashlight. It's about that big, and he goes, "I want you to help me. I'm going to let you use this for a month or two, and I want you to help me save the world." I thought he was crazy because he's saying, "Yeah, I'm going to shine a light on people." Now, remember, I'm a wise guy from New York. I know everything. And 20 years in, I figured there's nothing he can explain to me that I didn't already know. But I didn't know anything about red light therapy. And I said, all right, we'll try it. And within a month, it eventually it revolutionized my practice. I was able to heal things that I never believed possible. And we'll go over some of these examples, but then as the world of technology grows and goes, things got stronger, things got better. So about 14 or 15 years ago, it was discovered that there was an element of light that I was not using, red light, but prior to that, I was using near infrared. And we'll talk about infrared in a minute, but near infrared is invisible to the naked eye. So when you turn the lights on, there's nothing that shines because it's invisible, as I said, to the naked eye. So all of a sudden, another company that specialized only in red, they're the ones that discovered that there was an element of red light that could actually help shrink fat cells, actually help with weight loss. And imagine helping with, it's huge in this country. It's natural, it's healthy, non-invasive. You're not damaging anything. With all these others like freezing fat, boiling fat, lasering fat, ultrasonic cavitation, radio frequency, these are all about destroying fat cells. You see, fat cells have a bad rap because they have a lousy name. But fat cells are essential tissue. They are involved with stem cell production, hormone production, and you don't want to kill them off. And people don't understand the damage that they're doing when they do destroy fat cells because you don't grow new fat cells back. And so ultimately, they haven't done enough research to prove that people are actually going to have health consequences by destroying fat cells. Well, now imagine using just red light, especially unique wavelength of red light, that will help with shrinking fat cells. So now, how does that work? It does this. Now, in the beginning, they didn't know how it worked. They thought it either melted the fat or something like that. So, in fact, my first company, I decided at that point I'm going to get into manufacturing. So my first company was called Melt That Fat. And I had to change the name because we weren't melting fat. And I got in a little bit of, I didn't get in trouble, but they were telling me I might. So we changed the name to what I'm going to describe in a little while, Trifecta Light. But getting back to Melt That Fat, what they did discover was that, no, it didn't melt the fat. But what they found was that the red light actually changed the fat cell wall to become more porous just for a few hours. It didn't damage the cells. Nothing was being injured. And a few hours later, the cells would be back to the way they were. But for those few hours, the fat content, some of them could leak out into the surrounding tissue. And then with our unique protocol, we move the fat away from the fat cells through the lymphatic system and eventually to the liver for either use or elimination. And it works. It worked. And we had a lot of fun. So at that point, I said, that's it. I'm going to get involved with manufacturing. I started manufacturing about 14 years ago. And we were involved with lasers and with pads and panels and things like that. And they were nice. I mean, at the time we thought they were, the most amazing thing. But then the next phase came in. So we were having very good success. We had hundreds of offices all over the country in regards to this fat loss and other things as well. And then whenever COVID first hit, our practitioners wanted to stay in business. And they asked us, can we create something that would allow them to have less physical contact between themselves and their patients? And so if you can look at this is a newer model, but the first version of this is called a bed. We created this bed just as a substitute for what we had generated up to that point with no huge expectations other than it would be fine, right? And so we started shipping out the first series of beds years ago, and we started getting feedback that was nothing short of startling. I mean, unbelievable. So one of the first ones, we had a guy, he had Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, which is an autoimmune disease. And what it meant is he had 15 years of pain every day, and he had 15 years of really not being able to walk. An autoimmune disease that devastated him. Wow. And after 6 visits of using the bed, again, we had no expectations of this. He's walking, he's on the treadmill, he's riding his bicycle, he's walking the dog for the first time ever. And of course, now he's a help to his wife. You know, I went through the whole thing when I was doing the testimonial with him. But he was one of the first ones that said, and I want to thank you for giving me my life back. Now, I've heard that before sometimes, but now since we've created these beds, we're hearing it a lot. Now, what we've since learned is that it's by bathing the whole body at the same time. So up to that point, we had lasers, we had pads, and we were covering parts of the body. And we never got this kind of feedback. I'm talking about Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis. I'm talking about diabetes and kidney problems, Lyme disease, heart issues, any neurological issues, any orthopedic type of stuff, musculoskeletal problems, things like that. And it was with no expectations. We just thought it would be decent, but we did not expect these kind of results. So let me give you an example. And I use this example when I do my lecture. I said, well, what would you do if someone called you up and said that they're having a heart attack as often as 1 or 2 times a week? What would you do? Would you treat them? How would you treat them? And nobody has an answer for that, to be honest with you. So the medical profession, so 20 years ago, give or take, he started having congestive heart failure, heart issues. Then about 12, 13 years ago, it got so bad that he was having heart attacks once or twice a month. And they implanted a defibrillator in his chest, so every time he died, it would zap him back to life. By the time we met him 12 years in, he was having them as often as twice a week. And so you could see his heart was getting worse and worse. His energy was gone. He had so many symptoms that went along with that. And so, again, the practitioner calls me up and says, should I even treat him? I don't want him having a heart attack in my office. I said, why don't we just treat him for 5 minutes and stay in the room the whole time? Now, that patient goes home that night after that first 5-minute treatment. Now, normal treatment is 12 minutes. And that was 2 years ago. He's had more treatment, but he's never had another heart attack. Oh, wow. Hundreds of heart attacks, no more heart attacks. No energy originally. I mean, erectile dysfunction, everything you can think of was a mess with him. And after a series of treatments, everything has come back to life. Everything. His blood pressure is normal, his pulse is normal. One thing he says in the testimonial, and I'll be sending you a bunch of videos that I would welcome you to share with your audience. And when he describes it, he goes, one thing he didn't expect is that his energy is absolutely through the roof. So if you get a chance to watch this video, his name is Arnett. And we've got quite a few of these videos, but that's startling to me about the heart attack. Did we expect that? No. But one thing we knew for sure is that it couldn't hurt someone. So I told him, I said, stay in the room the whole time. The worst that'll happen is nothing. Like I said, everything has come back to life. When I talked to him, he went to his church. Now, he had a heart attack in his church, and he goes to his church and he looks at the pastor and says, remember me? I had a heart attack in your church. Look at me now. And the fellow parishioners, they would come up and they would go, oh my God, it's like you found life. You're so different. And he says, yep, red light therapy. And he's such a huge advocate because that's what happened. I want you to know that with my 48 years in practice, 20, having had 12 practices overall, I know how to build a practice. And it's not satisfied patients that build your practice. It's excited patients. And you're never going to see and hear of more excited people than you are with this type of therapy. I couldn't walk, now I'm walking. We had a guy that was losing his eyesight. He had Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy, which meant that he was going to go blind, and he surrendered to that. But he said, well, why don't I try this red light therapy stuff and see if it'll make a difference? And he did that. And within a relatively short period of time, what we found is we're not going to get back the sight he's already left. He's already lost. Mm-hmm. What we are going to be able to do is to halt the progression. And that's what happened. He's no longer going to be totally blind. The sight he's lost up to now is gone. But he's not going to go totally blind. And he's thrilled. And it's the same thing with multiple sclerosis, which is so vicious and progressive. When we see people with multiple sclerosis using the bed, what we're seeing is a halt of the progression. So the damage that's been done probably is not going to be reversed, but we can stop it from continuing progressing. And they've never seen such a thing before. It's amazing. I'm in love with this stuff. So at any rate, so there's about, some of the healing aspects that we've learned from the bed. Now, I do want to go over with you how and why it works. We talked about how fat loss works, and it changes the permeability of the fat cell wall, meaning that fat cell walls become more porous. Okay, so we're going to move away from that. But before I get to the mechanism of how the healing aspect works, I just want to point out some things that are in my background. So first of all, over here is the website, trifectalight.com. And the word trifecta comes from the meaning of winning the trifecta at the horse racing, but it's the triple effect of skin, fat, and healing. So the reason why we talk about skin is that, especially on the face, the fine lines and wrinkles and things like that will look so much better. And even getting rid of the fat under the jowl region and under the chin will look better. So the person's going to look younger, but they're going to feel younger. They're going to be younger. So we actually call this bed sort of the fountain of youth. So, so at any rate, so I'm pointing out the website. And if you go to the website, trifectalight.com, and go to the Contact Us page, what you'll find is that on the left side of that page is a way for you to find a location that's closest to you. We have hundreds all over the country. So why should you find locations? Because I am right now challenging each of you and telling you that you no longer complain. I don't care what your ailment is, you can't complain about it until you've used the bed 6 times. If you use the bed 6 times and still feel as bad as you do when you started, then go back to complaining. But that's very rare, what I just described. Almost everybody will notice change in 6 visits. And in some cases, the changes will be outrageous. And so the person might need more than 6 visits, but they'll see after 6 visits that this can change their life, that could revolutionize their well-being. And so I highly recommend that on the website, on the left side of the Contact Us page, just fill it out. You don't have to get us your email address or phone number. Just fill it out so we can find a location closest to you so that we can then refer you to a location and try it for 6 visits. When you go to the office, just say, I want the Rothschild spectrum and get the 6 visits so you'll see the difference. At the end of the 6th visit, the practitioner will sit down with you and go over, where you were and where you are now, and do you want to proceed further? Now, who wouldn't want to? If you're having, horrible headaches, if you have insomnia, I don't care what you have. We have seen almost response to everything. Yeah, there are a couple of things that maybe it won't help, but it's pretty rare. I mean, it's 96-7% of people will see a change and will see a difference. So isn't that fun? I mean, think about that. So you're going to go to the website. You're going to check out, find a location closest to you. If we don't have a location near you, then it is your obligation to get somebody in that area to buy one of these beds. It's a little bit of a joke there. I mean, I would love for that to happen, but we have hundreds of offices, but until we have thousands of offices, we can't blanket the whole country just yet. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's not subtle. And then on the right side of that same page, where on the left side, it's asking you for closest locations. On the right side is an opportunity for you to decide, is this something smart for you to buy for your business or your home? It's not a toy. This is a medical grade device. And so it's not cheap. but it has the highest fine lights that you can get. And I'm going to go over what you should be looking for in the world of lights and why it's so important that you get the medical grade type of lights. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So there you are on the right side. See if this doesn't make sense for you to build your business if you're in anything in the health world. So that's health, fitness, beauty, that's weight loss, and then I want to talk to you well, I guess we can talk now, and then also athletic programs and athletes. The reason why we're with the NBA, with the Olympic training centers, why other high-end athletic facilities have our bed, is because an athlete, if they get in the bed before their activity that day, they're going to perform much better. I mean, it's not subtle, much better. I had a person call me who's a serious swimmer, and he said he can now swim twice the distance he used to be able to swim.
Oh, wow.
So from an athletic point of view, you get in the bed before the match or before you do your serious workout. And then again in the evening after the activity, so you'll recover much faster and much more thoroughly. So the next day, we were dealing with the Olympic training group, and they're all professional athletes now. And they work, I couldn't believe how rigorous their routines are, getting them ready for the Olympics. So 8 hours of grueling workout. And so the next morning, it was hard for them to get up. But if they use the bed after their activity, the next morning they wake up, and as they described it, like they were fresh as a daisy. And so one of the videos I'm going to send you, her name is Chloe. She's a professional pole vaulter. And it's worth listening to that video. In fact, watch all the videos if you can. They're spectacular. So at any rate, that's about the website. So I also want to describe the YouTube channel. That's right here, if you can see behind me. So if you go, now I'm going to be sending you the show notes, so they'll have access to the testimonial videos and some other stuff. But if you just go to YouTube and put in at Trifecta Light Official, at Trifecta Light Official, you will see over 130 beautiful videos, really well done, professional grade. And if you can't tell, I'm having a lot of fun with this whole stuff. So I then want to go over, I did write this book. I don't make a dime off of this book. Any profits go to charity. But I wrote it to get people to understand red light therapy better. And it's a good read. It's 280 pages all told. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it as a Kindle. You can get it as a book, and you can also get it on Audible and listen to me talk for 7 or 8 hours or whatever. So that's about the website. That's about YouTube channel. We talked about the book. And so now I want to talk to you about the mechanism, how this thing works. And we're talking about the healing aspect. Now, before we go there, let's talk about, from the healing aspect, but let's talk about the word infrared. You've heard that word. And there is no such word as just infrared. So it's either far infrared, which means it's heat, or near infrared, which means it's cold. Far infrared is exactly what we don't want. Heat is the enemy. When we're dealing with this therapy, that doesn't mean later on in the day you could use far infrared. But while you're having the lights on you, you don't want heat. When you remove a hot pack off of someone's back, it's bright red underneath there because the blood has been attracted to the surface. And that's what happens with heat. So our medical grade lights are very strong without getting hot. That's where the science is. That's where the research is. And quite frankly, that's why it's a little bit more expensive, because these are the highest grade lights possible. So what we've done is we've extracted 4 elements of sunlight, and that's what this is about. Using natural sunlight or elements of sunlight, magnifying them many times, and then driving it into someone's body. So that you've heard people over the centuries being told, hey, why don't you go sit out in the sun? That'll make a difference. And it does. With diseases and various things, but it's very subtle. It's not strong. what we've done is we've magnified that thousands of times to drive it into this person's body. So if Arnett, who's having regular heart attacks, sits out in the sun, he's not going to see any huge difference. That I like people sitting out in the sun from time to time. If you're sitting in a cave or by your computer all day and never get any sunlight, that's not particularly healthy.
Right.
But if you integrate smart life, which includes getting out in the sun from time to time, and also integrate smart eating and smart exercise, which you can integrate into your life, not to excess that you won't do it for the rest of your life, and not too little that it doesn't make any difference. And then add smart red light therapy to that as well. And for smart red light therapy, it needs to be head to toe, full coverage, front and back, left and right, inside and out, covering as many cells as possible. And I'm going to go over more details of what we're looking for, but I still want to make sure you understand how and why it works. What they found is that, well, I'm going to give you a little terminology here, the word mitochondria. So the mitochondria, as we know, and many people know, is the powerhouse of the body. It's the reason why you breathe oxygen and eat food, to create this very important molecule called the ATP. When I went to school, I was taught that there was one mitochondria in every cell. So your body is made up of tissues. The tissues are made up of cells, and every cell has mitochondria. But what they found, that the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the body, that there is much more than just one mitochondria in every cell. As a matter of fact, the heart, which has the highest demand for energy, each heart cell has over 5,000 mitochondria. So what I'm telling you is that the mitochondria in your body makes up 10% of your body weight. I want that to sink in.
Wow.
Because that's incredible. That's only been discovered relatively recently. To give you an idea how important, how prevalent, how amazing the mitochondria are. And if your mitochondria is working correctly, you'll have the right amount of ATP. The ATP is this energy molecule. It's called the energy currency, actually, of the body that makes the difference between life and death, or at least health and wellness, being healthy and being sick. So if your mitochondria are not working properly, which happens from a whole bunch of different reasons. One of them is getting older. Another one is not taking care of yourself. So your mitochondria starts failing, won't produce the right amount of ATP. ATP is your energy to do anything in your body. Every movement, every thought, everything in your whole body is dependent on this ATP. And if the ATP is too little, it will lead to disease and eventually death. And if you have the right amount of ATP, you'll have a much higher quality of life. And you'll find that it's not about age. And it's not about anything else but just taking as good a care of yourself as possible. I liken well-being to a candle that burns really bright from the beginning all the way to the bottom and then sputters out and dies. That's how your health life should be. But in this country, a lot of people are not living wonderful lives in the last 10 or 20 years of their life. They're invalids sometimes, or many times. They're not, I used to teach a class where you'd be dancing when you're 75. And I have to tell you that that's not common. Right. Now, I'm 73, and I'm dancing, so to speak, and I exercise, and I take care of myself. And I'll tell you why some people don't take care of themselves. You know why? They're not scared enough. They don't know the damage that they're doing today, what ultimate effect it's going to have when they're older. But if they listen quietly and listen carefully, they can hear their 75-year-old self crying in the background going, "What are you doing? Take care of yourself, because I don't want to wind up a mess." Everyone says, "Well, I live to have fun and otherwise." Well, talk to me when you're 70, 75 years old and realizing, holy crap, did I screw up? And it's never too late. I mean, you still can start taking care of yourself at any time, but the earlier the better. And again, the reason why people don't take care of themselves, they're not scared enough. They haven't witnessed what might happen. Well, let me tell you how I got scared. I have been seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of patients. And every once in a while, someone would come into my office. I wouldn't say it out loud, But I'd think to myself, please, God, don't let me wind up like that. Because that person's life is miserable. It's not fun. What are you doing to yourself? Take care of yourself. Get scared enough to take, a good way to get scared is go volunteer for a short period of time, if you want, at an old age home and watch these people, especially ones over 70. What kind of life do they have? And some of them are active. Some of them take care of themselves, but a lot of them don't. So here we are. We're using light. Let's get back to the mitochondria, telling you that mitochondria is critical. There's a lot of it in your body, and it's the energy of your body. And so what do these lights do is they stimulate the mitochondria to come back to well-being. They stimulate the mitochondria to come back to health. And the way it does that, there are different tissues in your body that are stimulated by the sun. Not every tissue is. But the mitochondria has embedded in its walls an enzyme that is sensitive to the sunlight. And that's what stimulates the mitochondria to come back to life. And so the results are not subtle. Talking about Steve, who had Lyme disease that he contracted when he was 12. And it ruined his life. We don't meet him until he's in his 50s. So 40 years, his life wasn't so great. There were times when he wasn't sure he would, he couldn't have a good social life. He couldn't have a good education or career because there were times when he didn't know if he'd make it out of bed. Mm-hmm. His clarity, he would talk about brain fog, and he would talk about whatever. And I'm going to be sending you Steve's video. This video is another one of these. Now, Arnett with the heart attacks, that was startling. Steve's was also pretty cool. So when you get a chance to watch that, you realize why I got goosebumps when I talk to these people. Or when you talk to Jerisha, or you see the video Jerisha did. She had a stroke. It's incredible. The energy, and that's why I was telling you, to build a business, it's not satisfied people that do that. It's excited people. And you're never going to see more excited people as you will from this type of therapy. People that couldn't see can now see better. People that couldn't walk without being in pain now can walk fine. And that's how you get excited patients. And they refer a lot of people to you. So I was talking to this lady. She referred 18 people to the office that she's going to now because it helped her so much. Satisfied patients don't do that. It's excited people that do. So here we're talking about sunlight that we've magnified many times, both red and near infrared, integrated together, driven into the person's body to stimulate the mitochondria to come back to health. But it does other things as well. Some of you have heard of nitric oxide. It will stimulate the production of nitric oxide, which is very much involved in circulation in general. It increases collagen and elastin in the face and in skin in general as well. So we talk about Jessica, who had 16 very serious conditions. I didn't know that when I called her. When we were set up to do the testimonial, I didn't realize how extensive her problems were. She had 16 issues, including 3 forms of psoriasis. That included guttate psoriasis, plaque psoriasis, and psoriatic arthritis. The psoriatic arthritis created what's called dactylitis, where her toes, sometimes in the morning, she would wake up, they'd be black and blue and extremely painful and swollen. And after 2 visits, that stopped. Just the dactylitis alone. And then all these other 16 things. She had issues, as I said, with the psoriasis. She had a uveitis. Now, so when someone gets in our bed, they don't wear goggles. We let that light get into their eyes. So they keep their eyes closed. And if you're wondering if the light can penetrate the eyelid, well, it can penetrate your skull and get to your brain. Believe me, it can get through your eyelid to get to your eye. And then this person, almost everything in the eye will get better. Her uveitis meant that if it went untreated, she'd go blind in that eye. Normally, the pressure in the eye, there's pressure in the eye, is about 10, and hers was 180.
Oh, wow.
And the treatment for that was an injection right into her eye. And many of the people that are listening, I'll bet you that without you knowing this, there are more people than anyone thought of getting injections in their eye. And after a relatively short period of time, she didn't need those injections anymore. So watch that video. That's Jessica. So we got Steve with Lyme disease. We got Jerusha with stroke. We got Jessica with the 16, including 20 years of diarrhea only, and that's no longer a problem. She had kidney problems, liver problems, thyroid problems, heart problem. I mean, it just goes on and on. But watch that video also. It's startling. There's probably 30 videos that we'll be sending you. So with that said, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of questions.
Oh
So,
my God, I'm in trouble. Let me get a drink.
well, you did say that there was the sessions you say are about 12 minutes, and you say to do about 6 sessions just to see if it's working or not working. One of the things I wanted to know is does insurance cover this? Medical insurance cover this?
It depends on the provider.
Okay.
So if you imagine, as I said, you couldn't hurt anybody with this. So this is so safe that you don't have to have a health license in order to perform this service. In fact, you can get it for your home and do it yourself. And I have it here. So I get in and out of bed myself. Again, it's not a toy. It's a very serious medical piece of equipment, but you couldn't hurt yourself. So it's very safe. And some people just don't realize how expensive it is to be sick. They'll go, well, because I'm telling them it's $1,400 a month to lease. They go, oh, sounds like a lot of money. Well, then you've never been sick before, because I can't begin to tell you how expensive it is to be sick. Not only does it ruin your life and you can't have a fruitful, fun life, but it also actually money-wise costs a lot of money to be sick. So if you can avoid that, wouldn't that be fun? And remember what I told you, sick people, healthy people don't make anybody money.
Right.
So how about if you stay as healthy as you can for your own sake? I don't mind people making money, but maybe not out of your suffering. You know what? I did want to go over what you should look, because one of the things you're going to find out is that there's a lot of crap out there. I hate to tell you that, but there's a lot of knockoff junk that's out there, and they taint the whole industry. Because when somebody tries one of these pieces of equipment and they notice minimal results, if not none, they think, oh, I understand red light therapy and it doesn't work. Well, that's because you didn't use the highest grade medical device you possible. So again, what you want is a really strong device that doesn't get hot. You want full body coverage, we described. You want that the light, the top canopy comes right down onto your body, because as it comes away from the body, as the lights come away from the body, you lose power exponentially. You want the lights as close to the body as possible. You want the ability to customize a treatment so someone who's 80 pounds doesn't get the same dose as someone who's 400 pounds. The 400 pounder has a lot of flesh on them, so we can have higher power without generating heat. And the 80 pounder with no flesh on them, we got to lower the power so that we don't generate the heat. And the last thing, amongst many things, but these are the top thing, is that you can pulse the wave. And pulsing the wave creates a resonating frequency. Some of you are familiar with healing frequencies and things like that. Rife frequencies, solfeggio frequencies, and things like that. So we can pulse the waves to enhance the results that we get. And then we also include with the purchase, as I may have mentioned, there's 32 things that are included with the purchase. And one of those things is a vibratory device, a whole body vibrational device, because after the person gets off the bed, they get on the whole body vibrational device. So now you have light frequency, you have vibratory frequencies, and throughout the whole thing, we have a sound generator that's going to create sound frequencies that are matching the frequency that we're recommending. A common one that I really like is 528 hertz, which is the healing, universal healing frequency. It's also called the love frequency. It's what John Lennon wrote, Imagine to, that frequency or that note of 528. At any rate, do you have any other questions? You said you had lots.
Yeah. Well, the next thing I said, between you talked about the sports, people playing sports where they recommend getting, you recommended, getting in it before they play or do whatever they're doing. And then also afterwards, like, what is the period of time? I mean, do you have to, like, say we had one in our home, how often can we use this equipment?
Well, first of all, it depends on the person's issues, but there's no problem. You can use it as much and as often as you want, but you're going to kind of waste some time and energy. If you won't hurt yourself, but you might not get any further benefit depending upon your issues. Like with athletes and stuff like that, we'll see them twice a day, once earlier and once later. Most people get it 3 times a week. And that's why I made that challenge 3 times a week for 2 weeks and see if you don't see a difference. You will. You will. And so remember, no one's allowed to complain anymore. I don't care if it's headaches. I don't care if it's jaw pain. I don't care if it's any organ, gland, any tissue at all. At least try the 6 visits. Again, I'm not in practice. I'm not inviting you to my office. I have no financial investment in you getting better. But then what you're going to do is you're going to go to my website, trifectalight.com. You're going to go to the Contact Us page, and on the bottom of there, you're going to be able to send me a message. And that's how I get my excitement. I want to hear what you have to say. And I would be surprised if it wasn't something like, thank you. That really helped. Now, you might need more than 6 visits. Most likely you will. But in those 6 visits, you'll see the difference and why this is something you want to incorporate in the rest of your life.
Gotcha. So with you being, you started as a chiropractor and now you have this as a therapy, you're doing this business, you started into the manufacturing industry. One of the things though is like somebody who has scoliosis, is this something that the equipment could help with? Because the back is curved. I don't know if it could help straighten the back or helps with any of that inflammation around the curve of the spine.
I love this question. That's a great, great question. So if someone has an arrow shot into their shoulder, and they get into our red light bed, yeah, it'll feel better, but it would be wise to get the arrow out. And so if someone has scoliosis and a curvature in the spine, it'd be good to get to a professional. Obviously, I'm a chiropractor. It'd be smart to get to a chiropractor to help with aligning the spine. The lights are not going to push the spine into a better position. It's not going to release the pressure that's on the nerves and on the tissues in general. So I'm never talking about red light only. I'm talking about integrating red light therapy into other smart processes, other techniques. It will become the centerpiece of most facilities. People will line up wanting to get into this bed. But I'm not silly enough to tell you, well, it doesn't matter what you eat, and it doesn't matter whether you exercise, and it doesn't, there's lots of things that you can help yourself with as well. But this will be one of the core issues of using lights. Now, scoliosis is a great question. I'm so glad you asked that one because I don't really review that because you need someone that's going to assist you in getting a better structure. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're older, it's very hard to reverse. But what you want to do with all these things is to try to get the person not to get any worse. Mm-hmm. If you've seen really horrific scoliosis down the road, it's not only ugly, it's painful, and it's debilitating. So it would be at some point in your life, you want to get a really good health practitioner that will be not your doctor, but your advocate. They will be assisting you and teaching you how to sit, stand, sleep, beds, pillows, chairs, car seat, shoes, and incorporate the smart therapies and eating and explain to you about exercise and things like that. That's a great doctor. Not somebody that throws drugs at you, not somebody that doesn't spend some time with you. Maybe they charge more, but, and they should be generating videos. And so the videos that I'm sending you, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but within an Excel spreadsheet, there can be other sheets in there. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the bottom frame, you'll see there are pages within the spreadsheet that I'm sending. And the first one says patients. The second one says providers. The third one, I think, says miscellaneous. And I think the fourth one is educational. And I mentioned this because on the educational, there's a video on how to sit. There's a video on how to stand. And there's most importantly, a video on how to sleep. And people, as a rule, more than you could ever imagine, are sleeping wrong with the wrong bed, the wrong pillow. You know how many new patients I got from people that just bought a new bed? Because the husband, I'm just talking about traditionally, the husband goes out and they go together and they get a bed for him more than for her. Now, the bed for him is going to be way too hard for her. If he weighs let's say 250 pounds and she weighs 100 pounds. There's no way that bed could be suitable for both of them. So that's why I like the beds that allow you to have a split down the middle. So this person can move and not wake this person up. This person can move and not wake. So I love that split down the middle, but also can adjust the pressure. I'm not here to sell beds, but
Yeah.
you know which bed I'm talking about, where you can actually add more pressure or less. I like those. Unless you're never going to live with somebody else, then you can just get any kind of bed. But if you're going to have somebody else sharing that bed with you, it's nuts to think that two people who weigh so dramatically different. You see how I can just start talking about just about anything? You got to reel me in.
No, but I love that. I think that I love how you said that, the scoliosis won't be healed, but working with a provider that's not going to just give you prescription drugs to help you with the inflammation or the pain or anything like that, but to use this type of therapy as one of the another tool in the toolbox to use, because your diet is important, what you eat, how you move your body. I love how you said how you sleep, because all of those are important. People think, oh, well, if the doctor gave me this medication, and I'm not talking about, I'm not putting down doctors or anything like that, but we do live in a where you even said it yourself. Healthy people make don't make people rich. Like, but when there's people that are sick, the pharmaceuticals and all of the other things that come out there that, they get you onto these drugs, and the side effects on these medications is horrible. But nobody talks to you about, okay, well, maybe we do, a lot of doctors don't look at it holistically. Like, okay, let's try this natural therapy. Let's try, what's your exercise routine like? Let's get you to move your body. Let's get, look at your routine and things like that. I teach time management. I love talking to people about that. And the first thing I tell them is like, what are you doing for yourself? Well, I got all these other things. Well, that's the reason you're so stressed out, because you're not taking care of you. And there's all these other things. And so it's the same thing as implementing. If you go to a doctor and expect to get healed, but you're not even taking the efforts to make sure you're eating right, to make sure that you're moving your body, to make sure that you're sleeping, the 7 to 9 hours a day, depending on what age you are in life, there's all these other things that you can do. No wonder if you're just sitting in an office all day, just sitting, not standing, not moving your body, of course, there's going to be these issues. I also love how you said at the vibration plate that you do this red light therapy and then you offer this vibration thing to help your body afterwards. So can you talk to me a little bit how that vibration plate works and ties in with the therapy?
So I was involved with light therapy. I'm sorry, I was involved with vibratory therapy before I was even involved with light therapy. So we're talking about a long time ago. And I loved it. I mean, my patients loved it. It wasn't the miracle that the lights are, but it was nice. It was really good. And what we found is that we're vibrating the entire body at the same time. And the beauty of this is that you're moving. Nothing moves the blood and nerve and lymphatic system as well as vibration. So after you use the bed, you're going to have some release of junk out of the fat cells, including toxins. We want to move that away from you and get it out of your body. And so in the old days, they would say, well, go exercise. It doesn't do it as well. And plus, I don't trust people who have disciplinary problems already. They're not really disciplined. And so they might not do that. So I don't let them leave before they do the 10 minutes on the whole body vibration. And it will move the blood and in particular the lymphatic system better than just about anything out there in 10 minutes. There are other things that will move the lymphatic system, but they take an hour. And here you got 10 minutes and it does a very good job of that.
I love that. I love that. I love that you're also, like you said, you're in your 70s now and you've been practicing for a long time and you love and get excited about what you do. And you're in a healthy state in all the things because you've learned. Have you always been like this where you've been very health conscious and all these things, or has it been through years of studying and figuring out what works for you?
No, I was not. Back when I was growing up, we had a lot of Hostess cupcakes. We had a lot of Twinkies. People, I don't think they understood the damage that sugar did and all that stuff. And plus, my family wasn't that disciplined, honestly. But I told you that early on in my career and ever since, I started seeing people that were such horrible shape. They were older than me, and they didn't take care of themselves. And I said, I don't want to wind up like that. So it gave me a tremendous incentive to go out there and learn how to take better care of myself. And so, from the eating point of view, I hate the word diet because diet means there's a beginning and an end. And when you end your diet, then you put all the weight back on. But if you just incorporate smart eating into your lifestyle, and that includes eliminating it or at least lessening the amount of starchy carbohydrates, simple sugars, sodas, and alcohol. Those are the killers. Now, there's other things, like fried foods and all that, but I'm just starting off with these top four first. And, sugar, I think that more people have died because of sugar than maybe anything else, any other drug out there. It's terrible. Now, a little bit's not terrible. I'm talking about, and I'm not talking about fruit sugar. Everyone says, well, fruit has sugar. I believe, and I'm a little crazy about this, that when God or evolution, however you want to put these things on the planet, it was for our advantage. But they didn't put in the fact that we were going to extract sugar out of it and have pure sugar. Your body doesn't handle that well. So sugar, and a bowl of pasta is looked at like sugar as far as the body is concerned. So, sometimes you have pasta, but just not as much as you've been doing. Alcohol is really bad, but if you can't get away from it completely, at least lessen the amount. And I've never smoked. Because I got scared from these things. That's how I learned, and that's how I became more disciplined.
I love how you shared all of that because and I remember when you talked about if you don't understand what your life will look like and you want to understand the habits that we start now is what we have to look at is going to affect our future. And to volunteer at a convalescent home, elderly facility and see what people are going through and things like that. And that's one of the things I had just went through pelvic surgery. And so I was kind of, down on myself a little bit, wasn't walking as much, wasn't moving my body, kind of had a wake up call when somebody my same age who was working out, all these things, died of cardiac arrest. And it was like, wow, they're the same age as me. They are a little more healthier looking on the on the outside, look healthier than me. And so I've made it my daily minimum standard, or I call it my shine principles, but to make sure that I am actually going out there, walking about 2 miles a day outside, morning sunlight, things like that, because I'm like, this can happen to this person who's got all the, a former Marine, all of the healthiest can be, or perceived as healthy as can be, and can go into cardiac arrest, so what am I doing to myself? And then I look like, I used to run marathons, I used to do all these things, I let myself, fall back to an unhealthy weight, and I was like, wait, I gotta wake up. And so it's one of those things, it's like, if you don't take care of your body now, you don't take care of your health now, you're going to pay for it later.
I agree, but I just want to mention something that we don't want to set the standard so high that you don't do anything. Right. So you don't have to become a marathon runner.
Right.
You can it's really just 30 minutes 3 times a week. That's all I'm asking for you. So you're going to do 30, and it should be mostly cardiovascular. So treadmill, elliptical, something like that, where you're moving as many muscles as possible and getting your heartbeat to a correct amount. You can go on ChatGPT or wherever and find out what is the right heart rate that you should be at when you're exercising, and what should your resting heart rate be, and that difference. So learn that for yourself. I don't want to set the standard so high that you don't do it at all, or you set the standard so high that you think, oh, I got to do 2 hours every day, and then they realize after 3 or 4 days they can't do that, and then they quit completely. So I like baby steps. I'm a baby stepper kind of guy.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a great point. What I was saying is back in the day, I was running marathons. I was doing 18, 20, and I stopped everything. Years ago, I stopped everything. And now it's I was sad to say, I was barely getting 4,000 steps a day. Now I'm getting about 10,000, but I'm making sure it's making sure that I get a half hour in of some type of movement, walking the dogs, just getting, but the thing it's helped, I feel so much better. My inflammation has gone down. And I'm really interested in this red light therapy and what it can do for all the other things that I'm dealing with. So I appreciate that you just sharing all of these things. It's
Can you see that?
Get in the bed.
That's what my staff put together for me, because that's my attitude is, yes, all the things you just described, and get in the bed. So find a location closest to you and use it. And if it makes sense, for some of you, open up your own business, or if you already have a business, add this to your business. It will add a lot of income, but also you'll be helping a lot more people than you could ever imagine. At any rate, I hope you had fun. That was my goal, is to make sure you were happy. And so have a great, and I'll send you a bunch of information. I'm going to send you a flip book that's really super. Has a lot of videos, has a lot of information on it. So I'll send that out as well to you, okay?
All right. I thank you. I appreciate all of this. I thank you for being on my podcast, and thank you for just helping my listeners, because this is you gave them a lot of simple tools that they can do to refine and shine, but most importantly, to look at this as another tool that they can add to their wellness toolbox to help them by finding a location and getting out there and getting themselves like 6 sessions, 2 weeks, 3 sessions a week. What can it hurt, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refine and Shine. We hope you find valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey of continuous improvement. Remember, the key to success lies in refining your processes and letting your inner brilliance shine. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us reach more listeners like you who are eager to refine and shine in all areas of life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and additional resources and behind-the-scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to reach out with any suggestions, questions, or success stories you'd like to share. As we wrap up, remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Keep striving for growth, embracing change, and seeking opportunities to refine your skills. Together, let's continue to shine bright and make a positive impact in the world. Until next time, keep refining and keep shining.